lid slides up and down on a pulley system that's located in this back part of the fryer with counterweights in the back. The lid itself is very heavy, but the counterweights make it seem almost weightless. This raises up and down, and there's a carrier system in here that holds our cooking baskets. So there's 4 baskets in here, and then you'll typically have an extra basket that's very short that acts as our lid that goes in the 5th slot. We don't put a basket in the 5th slot. That's used as a cover to keep product from floating out of the baskets and into the oil. To slide the lid back down, it's going to catch with this lever and catch on this part down here. You slide it back down into place and it will click into place. This lever will hold it, and then this lever is used to lock the fryer down so that pressure can build. To lock it into place, this handle lifts to about 45 degrees, just till you start to feel tension in the handle. If you force it, it will go beyond this position, but we don't want to force it. Lift it until you feel pressure. And then when you first start, you might want to use 2 hands to slide this into place. There are 2 cylinders that match up with 2 C-shaped cutouts in these steel parts on the side here. Once you have those seated in place, we're going to push this handle down. If you watch closely when I push the handle down, you'll see the lid move slightly. It's compressing the seal that is inside the lid so that we have a nice tight seal around the fry pot rim so that it can build pressure during cooking. Once your cooking cycle is done, we're just going to do the opposite. We're going to lift this handle up until we feel pressure. Push it back with 2 hands when you first start. After you do it for a while, you'll be able to do it with 1 hand. And then push this back down into place. Now you can lift the lid at this point. When it's full of product, it might need a little bit of assistance. And you'll notice if we try to help it lift from here, this moves freely. But if we give it just a little extra push back, now it stops here. So we can help lift the lid up if it needs to get it up to the top position so that we can unload it. It's important to keep a hand on this handle. If it's a light load, this can get moving pretty quickly and hit the top of the fryer. It's not necessarily going to do immediate damage to the fryer, but it can rock the fryer and cause the oil inside to slosh around, which we want to avoid. All right, so as you can see, the fryer is completely started up now, and we have our menu screen up. Down here on the menu screen, it started us on menu 4 because that's probably where I left off last time. But as you notice on the top, there are right and left arrows next to the white buttons. So we can use those to scroll between our menu screens. Each menu screen holds 4 items that you can program however you want. You can name them however you want as long as it fits within the character count. It doesn't really limit you on character count, but if you make them too long, they overlap each other. So on our menu here, you can see on menu 1, for instance, I have some pre-programmed items. We have chicken breasts and thighs, tenders, wings, and chicken sandwiches. And as you scroll through, I've added additional items from Scotch eggs to fresh breaded chicken, chicken sandwiches, and wings. And those are all things I've done through testing that you can adjust as needed so that it works perfectly for your restaurant or for your store. When you want to cook something, just like when we're baking in an oven, like if you want to cook, say, a frozen pizza at home, the first step, of course, is to preheat the oven. We do the same thing with the fryer. So everything that we program typically cooks around 325. There's a couple things that cook at 350. But when the fryer is not in use to save oil life, again, that seems to be a common theme, and energy, it goes into an idle mode where it's going to drop that oil temperature down to save energy, so we're not keeping it at 325 all day. And also a 250 degree oil is going to break down more slowly than a 325 degree oil. So you choose what you want to cook, and let's say for instance we want to do some wings. So I would come to the screen, find what I want to cook, and then push the white button next to it. It's going to tell us to wait. The oil's not warm enough yet. So it tells us that right now it's at 302 degrees. The wings, I believe, are going to go to 350, so it's going to warm it up to that temperature. And it's going to tell us, it'll stop flashing wait, and it will stay ready, and there'll be a green square next to the button that tells us that it's time to cook the product. So if you choose what you want to cook and then go get it, put it on your trays, which we'll talk about in just a minute how to load those, and then load it in the fryer, it'll be ready. It's not it's not a slow process. It goes rather quickly from the idle temperature up to the cooking temperature. So we have chosen what we want to cook. It's wings. This should be cooled down enough now that I don't need heat protective gloves. So I'll bring our sheet tray back over that has our carrier rack on it. Our lid's in the cleaning position. So like I said before, there's a little backward shaped L in back with a bolt coming out of it. So we'll lift the lid slightly, lift that up to the 12 o'clock position, and then you can lower the lid back into a horizontal position so that we can put our carrier in place. Line up the rails that we talked about before, slide this back into place. So now it's ready to cook. So if we're doing wings, we get our trays out onto the sheet pan, and you can either take that to a prep table where you've got stuff ready, or if you have something on wheels, it's really nice to be able to wheel it over and load it right here. Load your product on here. You can load it fairly tight in here. We don't want to double layer though. We want to have a single layer. Load your product in here, whether it's fresh breaded chicken or wings. And then these will slide back in once they're ready to cook into the slots on the carrier. When we're loading, if you look in your operator's manual, it will give you specific instructions on how to load this. Starting with tray 3, then tray 4, then 2, then 1. An easier way to remember it, in my opinion, is bottom to top, large to small. So let's say you're cooking chicken breasts and chicken thighs, for instance. I would want to load chicken breasts in the bottom because they're larger, and thighs on the top. The reason for this is if you start at the top and work your way down, it's not going to displace the oil enough to cover the top of the product. If I lower this down into the oil right now, you can even kind of see a crumb line right here in the middle of rack 1, it's not going to completely cover that product. So if we load from the bottom up, that displaces the oil and raises it higher. It's like if you get into a bathtub, when you get in the bathtub, the water level rises up. So if we load from bottom to top, biggest to smallest, we'll make sure that our product on top is covered. Now, if you load it improperly, you're gonna get chicken that comes out. It will be fully cooked, but that top of the chicken won't be nice and brown like we like it to look. So load from the bottom to the top. You can cook 1 tray or you can cook 4. It's going to automatically adjust the timer so that if it's a large load of product, it's actually going to slow down the timer a little bit to make sure that it gets cooked the same every time. You wouldn't notice the timer difference unless you sat there with a stopwatch and checked it, but it does slow it down ever so slightly for large loads, and then keeps it at your normal time for smaller loads. So once we've loaded the product in, bottom to top, largest to smallest, then we can lower this down into our oil. And like I said before, we'll move this sheet tray out of the way, even though it would still click in place with the sheet tray there. Lower the fryer down until it clicks. And then remember, we lift the handle until we feel resistance. Slide it forward so that the cylinders match up in the C cutouts in these steel pieces, and then press it down into place. And you'll notice on our screen down here, it has now come to temperature and says ready with a green triangle. I misspoke and said square. It's a green triangle that says ready. We can push the white button next to the triangle and it will start our timer. In this particular product, it was set for 8 minutes, so it starts a countdown timer from 8 minutes. And if there were product in there, you would start to see the pressure building on the bottom line. That starts at 0, it will build up within a couple minutes to, like I said, 12 PSI, and then it will start venting out of here. So if you see steam venting out of here during the cooking process, don't worry about it. It's supposed to do that. Once the cooking process is done, it's going to open the solenoid valve to let all that steam out. So at the end of the process, it's going to make a big whooshing noise and push all the steam from the fry pot out of the stack and back into your vent hood. And once it gets below 2, it will allow you to open that back up. If you've started something in error and you either chose the wrong product or you need to add more, you can push the X button over here on the top right to stop the cooking process. You have to hold that. It will beep and then go back to your main cooking menu. Since we didn't reach any pressure, it will allow us to open this immediately. If we had reached a pressure in there, it would first have to vent it down below 2 PSI, and then it will allow you to open the lid. Slide that back out of the way. Remember, like we said before, if we give it that extra little push, then we can help lift the lid up with the handle. Once it's done with the cooking process, it's gonna beep until someone acknowledges it. Then there will be a green square in the right corner. You push the white button next to the green square to stop the cooking process, and then you can unload your product. You'll also notice after it finishes cooking, it will immediately start a quick filter. And since we didn't actually cook anything, we can show you the quick filter in the filter menu by pushing and holding the filter button or the menu button, number 1 for filter, and number 1 on here is quick filter. So as soon as you finish cooking, it's going to start doing this immediately, all by itself without touching it. You can hear the drain valve start to open a little bit. It's gonna let a little bit of oil drain down. Then it's gonna kick the pump motor on, and it's gonna start cycling that oil. Once again, just to reiterate, it does that automatically. You don't have to go into the filter menu like I just showed. I demonstrated that because we didn't cook anything. So we didn't get to the end of the timer to experience that quick filter. Once it's done filtering, it will be ready to cook again. With the quick filter in place, by the time it finishes this, you choose a product and load your product. You won't be able to outrun it. Don't worry about that. You're not gonna be sitting around waiting. So if we do the quick filter, preheat, and then get ready to load, by the time we load, it'll be ready to go. That is the basics of your PXE 100 Velocity Fryer. Just some quick notes to end. There are warning signs here to tell you things that can get people hurt or burned. Make sure we follow these warnings. They're pretty straightforward things as far as staying away from the hot oil, using protective equipment when necessary so that we don't get burns. If you ever have a problem with your Henny Penny fryer, on the back of the fryer here, there is an 800 number. That is Henny Penny tech support. It is monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Outside of business hours and on weekends, you may get someone's voicemail, but if you leave a message, they'll call you back soon thereafter. You don't have to wait till Monday morning to get an answer about your fryer. There's also a QR code on there you can scan to watch instructional videos about your fryer if you've forgotten something. Also, I like to mention the operator's manual does a very nice job of going step by step through everything I've covered today and then some, especially when it comes to things that we can't demonstrate on day one, such as your dispose and your clean out. We don't want to throw away fresh oil, and with oil in the fry pot, we can't do a clean out. But the operator's manual does a very nice job of giving you step-by-step instructions for exactly how to do that. Thank you so much for watching our presentation on the startup and operation of your new PXE 100 Velocity Series fryer.